morning, everybody. My name is Peter Brown. I'm the president of Finance on Pepper. I appreciate everybody being here today. This is one of my favorite places to sponsor. I'm also on the executive board now for the Century Chamber. Erin, we work closely together with you guys over at what you do. I appreciate everything you do. And anything you guys need as far as auto glass replacement, give me a call. And anything that you're involved in the nonprofit side, please reach out. I can help you to sponsor, or I can get connections for you to help you get sponsorships. Thank you.
We're going to dive right in. The bios are now printed and on everybody's seats for Pamela and Erin. Pam is our moderator. She's from Social Food Bank. And if you missed hers a couple of years ago, it's on our YouTube page. I'll send it to everybody. Erin moderated Pam. So
the tables
Pam
have
turned.
The tables have turned. I get my revenge. Welcome everybody, and I just want to say thank you to the Chamber for Women in Local Leadership. This is one of my favorite events to attend. I love coming and I love getting to know you all, and I've been to enough of them now. We were just saying that this feels like coffee with friends, so it's great.
Maybe, I'm still nervous.
So Erin moderated my segment a little while ago, and we've met a couple times since, and I'm so impressed by her. So I was thrilled to have this opportunity. She's a rising star. And I'm always interested in up-and-coming leaders and understanding, because we're a product of our environment, so understanding how you think about things and your approach to things and how it's different from how I approach things, and I'm so encouraged by some of the things that floated to the top out of our conversation. So I'm excited to share with all of you today. We're going to dive in. We're starting with how you value your time. How do you decide, because you have a lot of responsibility as the Director of Development at Road to Responsibility. So how do you decide where to invest your time, and what will reap the most benefit for you?
I feel like that's been a growing thing that has been changing for me over the past couple of years. Like starting out in my career of nonprofit, I just kind of thought I could do it all, dip my toe in everything, see if I could, make it all work. But I'm learning to value my time more, and knowing that that's also a value to the organization, right? Like when you look at an expense report, my time is on there too. So I've really been kind of shifting gears a little bit about learning to value myself in an effort to impact the organization in a positive way. So for grant writing, for example, I want to submit every grant I possibly could, get every dollar. But some of those aren't going to have a good return on investment for the organization based on my time. So I've really just kind of been trying to think strategically about that, and seeing what amount of time I'm putting into something and making sure that it has a positive effect for the organization and for myself to value my own time too.
Yeah, so that leads beautifully into our next question, and that is, I find as a woman in a nonprofit social services, human services organization, which many of us are, it is so hard not to take your work home. It's so hard not to feel so connected to the mission, and then have that bleed into your home life. How do you protect that?
I've started being okay with saying no, which is a very hard thing for me. I mean, I try to come to every chamber event, but RTR crosses over like 5 different chambers, so there's events morning, afternoon, and night, and I'm trying to be in all the places and do all the things. But I have kids at home too, and now he's starting to get old enough to say, why aren't you home at bedtime? So I've been trying to figure out, what's really going to be a beneficial event for me to be at. Is that every single after hours that's hosted? No. And that was really hard for me at first. Is RTR going to miss an opportunity because I'm not there and I'm at home instead? So I've just been trying to figure out that balance, which isn't easy, but now I'm okay with saying no, and just making sure that I'm building enough rapport in our communities and at chamber events that if I'm missing something, that's okay. And also just trying to balance, I'm not going to give 100% to everything at one given time. So it's a work in progress, but knowing, if I'm at work, I'm at work, and if I'm at home, yes, I'm checking email on my phone, but, then I'll put it down and play with my kids. So just trying to balance it, but I don't think anybody's truly figured that out yet. But I think being okay with saying no.
Yeah, that's powerful. So one of the other things that impressed me when we spoke has to do with innovation and initiative. Can you share a moment where stepping forward for an opportunity affected your career?
Yeah, so when I was at the American Cancer Society, that's where I started out. I was an intern there, and I think like a lot of other nonprofit people in this room, you didn't strive to go into that. You just kind of jumped right in. And I just raised my hand and tried to jump into everything that I could. I invited myself to meetings. I always just asked people, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I talked with Pam a lot about how I called myself nosy. She politely called me curious. But I feel like I still do that. Like, I'll come to the committee, I'll come to the meeting, and who wants another meeting, right? But I feel like that allowed me to learn all the different aspects about what was happening there. And then that ultimately led to a job when I graduated college, which led to several other jobs there, which led me back to the South Shore where I'm happy to be. But I think with such a big organization like the American Cancer Society, I really just tried to soak it all in and be curious.
And that, to go back to your previous question about saying no, is like balancing,
Right.
finding how to identify opportunities and not raise your hand for everything, but take initiative. But it's such a hard line to walk.
Yes.
So you're not ending up
is.
at everything.
Especially when there's we have so many committees at RTR, and then once you're on the committee, you're not leaving the committee. So it's kind of I'll invite myself as a guest for this meeting to kind of learn, but I'm not part of this committee. So it's certainly a fine line.
And so speaking of risk, I'm going to do a shameless plug here. We have Food Fight coming up for South Shore Food Bank, and we took this plunge intentionally. It was time, but it's a huge risk for us. We've never done anything on this scale, and the event keeps getting bigger and bigger. And so in thinking about that and thinking about taking risk and taking initiative and trying new things, how do you approach that? How do you think about balancing the risk with maintaining stability?
Yeah, that's hard, especially when I have the power to make those decisions, which is a very nice thing we'll talk about later. I didn't always have that, but it's also a scary thing to have that opportunity. Shameless plug for the Chamber and the NPO group. I think you find your people, and it's not all alone my decision making. Being able to talk to other colleagues in the field that are hosting galas or doing events, what's working, what's not, and is that worth the risk for me to try it? Obviously, every organization is different, but I think we all really lean on each other, and just because I'm sort of a one-woman show at my organization making these decisions doesn't mean that somebody else hasn't been there and they're willing to kind of shine light and help guide me through that. And so I really kind of found a comfort in the home of the NPO group and a lot of people in this room that have helped me allow myself to make those decisions with leaning on them.
Yeah, that's so true. I was having a conversation with a volunteer this morning, and he was saying how the work culture has changed in very professional settings. He's in insurance, and how people have this work from home, hybrid balance, and that is finding, especially younger people, are less invested in workplace relationships, and that they come and they do their jobs and then they go home. Whereas I feel like in the nonprofit sector, that's different. I feel like we're very fortunate to be as connected as we are, and to have the opportunity to lean on each other.
I think I work less in the office because I'm talking to people. And I leave, I'm like, I don't think I did anything today. I should probably work at home tomorrow.
So, this leads us on to our next thing, which is something that I really loved in our conversation, is that your openness to learning and growing and not being too set in your ways or having specific ideas about things. So how do you cultivate a mindset of continued learning?
I think it's just that continued curiosity. You know, I've gotten comfortable in my role now. I've been there for 6 years, but things are still always changing, and just trying to sort of keep up with what's happening in the field, and again, leaning on other professionals and just continuing to learn and learning from my colleagues as well as to how we can continue advancing the mission.
So speaking of now getting out of the weeds, when you say you're in the office for the whole day and you're doing all the things, and then you come up for air and you realize, oh my gosh, like these 15 things we didn't ever tackle. How do you balance like the long-term vision with day-to-day stuff? What strategies do you employ that help you navigate that?
I think, maybe easier in nonprofit, right? Because you have the mission that's driving you. So I think always coming home to that. You know, some days you're just tackling the to-do list, which I love. I love a calendar. I love a structured system. My to-do list, nothing is better than ticking off things on the to-do list. But always just kind of coming home to why am I doing that and how is it feeding back into the mission, which RTR is going through their strategic plan right now. So, you know, as a department, looking at how does my department advance the mission. And so I think I'm trying to keep that mindset with how does my day-to-day advance the mission, and just always looking at that big picture, because it is hard to get down in the weeds on stuff, especially in development. I mean, I feel like we end up being the department, if somebody doesn't know who to go to or who to ask, it just kind of falls on us, which helps feed my nosy mindset. It's fine, throw it all at me. But sometimes, I catch myself doing things and I'm like, is this my job? And I don't mean that in a negative way, but like, is this what I'm getting paid to do? Is this going to help the organization? Is this going to advance the mission? So I think just always bringing it back to that, and then reminding myself, okay, this might be a mundane task or something that I'm just doing to get through the day, but as long as it's sort of leading to that overall mission and moving that forward.
I love that, because that empowers you also to think about how to say no to something, centering the mission all the time.
Yeah.
But, you are super organized in a wonderful, constructive, strategic, thoughtful, considered way.
People are laughing. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
No, it's a great thing, because it's so hard. I am a writer and an artist, and so I lean very hard on intuition. So when you look at your books and your notes and your to-do list, I'm like, oh my gosh, I envy you. Please come live in my brain. Help me organize this that goes on. So you can really get mired down in the details when you're thinking things through at a granular level. So how do you think that helps you stay proactive in your planning and your balance the longer term visions with the very pressing, I have to do this right now? Because in having the role that you have and having the freedom that you have, you can make these very big, beautiful decisions, and then the execution falls on your shoulders too. So then you're mired down in the details of a mailing or whatever. And so it's hard to not get caught up in that and to still be thinking long term, and then not just stay long term and find the balance with those details. Is there can you pull out your notebook and show us how that
my color-coded calendar
works? Yes.
I think it's hard too, because I'm creating my projects, I'm making my timelines, so if something doesn't get done on the calendar today, I'm just kind of moving it to tomorrow and the next day, which can lead to problems because I'm not always getting things done. where was my brain going? See, this is where my organized brain
It's me, it's my fault. It's rubbing off on you. You're welcome.
I really try to look at the calendar year and structure that clearly, as Pam is setting the tone here as to how my brain works. But I think also being okay with the fact that sometimes, like, I wake up that day and I realize, like, oh, I probably should have sent that email. I'll do that right now, you know? Like, it's on the calendar, and I really try to structure myself, but it doesn't always work that way either. You know, being able to look at, okay, we have this big campaign coming up, so what should be my goals of that? But there's always going to be things that I miss. I think everybody does.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody does. I know I do. There's some things at my office right now that I probably should have done last week. So, giving opportunities to your team, you felt was very important to you when we spoke. But you're very clearly a detail-oriented person. And this is something that I struggle with, because when I start something, I've been called particular. I have a set idea on the outcome at the onset, and then I have to hand it off to somebody who has a completely different approach, completely different style, completely different everything, and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Any advice?
Yeah, that's hard for me. That's a big thing that I'm trying to work on, because it's always been just me. So it's always been my way and my style, and I'll just do it all. But we did add somebody to my team a couple of years ago, so I've been trying to have the mindset of if I was her. You know, when I started as an intern, or when I had a position of somebody I was reporting to, you know, I wanted to feel empowered and I wanted to learn from them. So I'm trying to instill that, and I want her to learn from me. But that's not always doing it my way, you know, so trying to have that mindset and be open to her creativity and her ideas too, and thinking that, you know, I always kind of wanted someone to look up to in a position that I wanted to be one day, and that's how I would teach myself, and I would just kind of strive to be like them, and I hope that I can be that for her. And so giving her opportunities, you know, she started out with certain tasks, but we talk every week, and it's like, you know, what do you want to do? I don't want her to just get bored with mundane tasks, but it's hard for me to offload things, because I've always had control of them, and I've always just, you know, I'm kind of the person that's like, I'll just do it. It's quicker if I just do it. Why am I going to spend the time teaching her how to do it? But that's not fair to her, so that's a hard thing that I'm still working on, and it's still very hard for me. But, you know, just the other week I said, oh, you've never written a grant? You don't know what it is? Okay, well, you know, try it. Here you go. Send me a template and, you know, give me a rough draft, and we'll check it out. Because that's how I learned. You know, you just kind of, I mean, with the exception of my friend here in the back row who taught me everything I know, Elizabeth Jones. I didn't know how to write grants. I just started being nosy and seeing what she was doing. And now I still call her, and she still helps me. But I want to be that for my team, too. So I think just kind of opening the door and providing them those opportunities. And, you know, sometimes it, like, makes me cringe inside that I'm handing things off. It's a struggle that I'm still kind of overcoming. We've worked together for a couple of years now, but I'm slowly getting there.
It is a transfer of ownership. It is. Yeah. You are taking something and transferring the entire responsibility and accountability for that, however it is, to somebody else. Yeah,
and it's hard to, I mean, even though, you know, you may trust them and you have a good working relationship, you know, obviously my supervisor treats me to be empowered and independent, so I just try to do the same for her, although I'm still working on that.
So I think one of the things that makes you compelling to spend time with and is shining through today is your authenticity and your honesty. You're just so direct, and it is what it is. And it, I think, helps people trust you, so you're in the perfect role. But can you tell us about a time when that strengthened an important relationship?
Would you like me to talk about my journey starting at RTR?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
So my journey at RTR has been an interesting one over 6 years. I took the job when I was 20 weeks pregnant, which was a terrifying process to have to tell to your male CEO. First of all, I felt so deceitful. Clearly, as you're saying, I'm an honest person. Like, I was interviewing, I just felt like I was living a lie. And I hated that feeling. But then when I accepted the job and I called him and told him, like, he just immediately was like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Like, when are you due? You know, it was nothing related to RTR. So it was like, it was the perfect response that I could have gotten. And then fast forward maybe 4 or 5 weeks later, I ended up in the hospital for what was going to be the remainder of my pregnancy. So that was another fun conversation to have as a new person on the staff to, hey, by the way, you know, I thought, like, that's it, this is my job. And I said, can I work remote from the hospital? And this was before COVID, and he just kind of, like, went silent. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you've worked here 4 weeks, and now you're asking to do this? Thankfully, he let me do it. I worked part-time from the hospital. I mean, talk about trust, you know, the fact that he allowed me to do that. And then I came back, and it was COVID. So it's just kind of been, like, one thing after another. I hope that I have earned that with him. But I think that certainly built trust between us, and it allowed me to kind of know that I could land on my feet. I mean, I had worked there 4 or 5 weeks, and all of a sudden I was working remote, not meeting my colleagues, not really like being in the thick of my job. But I think that that certainly paid off to really build some rapport between the two of us as, you know, team members working together. He just really trusted me to jump in and do it. It gave me such purpose in the hospital. I mean, there was other women, like, getting together for lunch, and I was like, sorry, I'm working. You know, I'm busy. I have purpose here. So that was really, really cool, because I was also scared to take the job, and, you know, it was a big role that I had never really done before. I wasn't trusting myself that I could handle it. And so that was cool, just to kind of jump in and have the opportunity to do that.
And a testament, too, to Chris for,
absolutely,
you know, being as supportive as he was, and modeling that behavior within the organization. Because I think so many human service organizations, when you speak to some of the employees, they're treated not like you're a human service organization.
Yeah.
We have an open leave policy. I don't dictate how many vacation days people get a year. Like, if you need it, take it. I don't want you to feel like you have to scrimp and navigate if you have family commitments. And if an opportunity comes up and you want to go to Spain for a week or two, then go to Spain for a week or two. Go do the thing, because, you know, that balance is, I think, so critical to having employees who trust you and are super engaged and motivated.
I think it makes them happier, and then they want to work harder for you. I mean, I'm a good worker. I think I am, but I've been in jobs where I'm not happy, and I'm kind of like, I'm not going to raise my hand for that opportunity because I didn't respect my supervisor, quite honestly, which sounds sad, but I think if you have respect for your supervisor and the place that you work and you're happy, you're going to naturally work harder.
Yeah, we found that. I mean, I can honestly say that somebody said to me, oh, that's going to cost you. I'm like, oh, well, we'll see. And we've had it in place for 2 years now, and I was looking at our personnel expenses, and it hasn't cost us. And if anything, my team is more productive. So it's great to be able to foster those opportunities for up and coming. All right, so these are all examples of, you know, things that you had to navigate and minor setbacks. But you've had some other challenges too on your path to getting to where you are. And how did you navigate them?
Yeah, so I become a creature of habit by nature. Like, I get really comfortable where I am. Leaving the American Cancer Society was terrifying for me. I had been there since college. You know, I just took an internship, and then one thing led to another. But I just really needed to come back closer to home and looking for a different opportunity. And I took a job that seemed very exciting at the time, but it just wasn't the right fit for me. You know, it wasn't a kind of organization that was embracing what I had to offer, I think. And I think just there was many silver linings to that. You know, I learned a lot there. I met Elizabeth there. I invested in the chamber there. That's when I first, you know, chamber member. I think I raised my hand for steering committee, for NPO. I just wanted to do all the things that would make me happy. So there was so many things there that I learned, and again, continuing to just really soak it all in and find the silver linings there. But I think being able to admit that that wasn't a good fit for me or the organization, like we just weren't meshing. So it was time to leave, and I applied for job after job after job. I mean, I was willing to try anything. And then I got to the final round of a job that I really, really wanted, and I didn't get it. And I was so bummed out, but like within 12 hours, the RTR interview came up, and that's how I landed here. And, you know, it as corny as it sounds, it truly felt like what's meant to happen will happen. You know, it was very, it was so much serendipity that if I had taken one of those other jobs and then my pregnancy journey went the way it was, like, there's no guarantee that things would have ended up the way they did for me at RTR. You know, Chris is a rarity, I think, in a CEO, and if I had taken one of those other jobs or the, you know, the final round that I ended up in, they actually laid off their director of development come COVID. So I can't imagine being home with a newborn baby and then I got that call, you know. So I truly just think that I landed where I was supposed to be, but in the moment it felt like everything was going wrong.
And what I loved about this when you told me this story was the wisdom, because what I do when I'm in a situation that isn't a good fit, I'm like, why can't I make this work? What am I doing wrong? Why am I failing? And I put it all on myself. And I love that you didn't do that. I love that you looked at it and went, well, this isn't working, so let's make a decision to change the circumstances. This is not about me or what I'm failing. This is about me and what I have to offer, not being utilized here. And I really wish that more of us, particularly women, because I feel like we take responsibility for everything, could feel that way. And so when we talk about a rising star and we're talking about what's different in up-and-coming, you know, kick-ass leaders on the South Shore, women leaders, that was something that I feel like has changed, and I just want to celebrate that. Thank you. Yeah, and then also you talk about faith and you say I'm meant to be where I'm meant to be, but sometimes I think that in that moment we should trust ourselves too for putting ourselves in situations where we are where we're meant to be. And I had a similar story. So when I left Weymouth Food Pantry, I mean, I closed my business down before Weymouth Food Pantry.
I was like, you didn't leave there.
Nothing's happening. I haven't accepted anywhere else. No, I shut down my business and I was interviewing. I was looking for another opportunity, and I found an opportunity in development at a children's hospital, and it was a children's hospital supporting kids with different terminal cases combined with developmental. I mean, it was just such a beautiful place. And I was in love with the team. I was in love with the mission. I'm like, I want this job so badly. The final interview was with a psychiatrist, and I felt the whole interview like I was on the couch. And I left there, but feeling like I'd held my own. You know, in that interview, I felt good about it. I had a chance. And then he phoned me a week later and said, Pam, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm not giving you the job. And I was like, that doesn't seem like a favor to me. I said, why? He says, no, you need to go find a small nonprofit to run. This is not a good fit for you. And I was like, I was so ticked off. Like, who are you to tell me what I need? I wanted that job so bad and I didn't get it. And then I was on my way to the interview with Weymouth Food Pantry and I had an accident in my car. And I was like, you see, somebody sideswiped me. They drove right into the side of me. And that was a sign that I was not going to get that job either. But I persevered and I went to the interview anyway. I just phoned and said, I'm going to be late. This happened. And it has been the best decision ever. Yeah, so anyway.
The good ones have an interesting start. Right?
They always do, right?
Yeah.
And I've never looked back. I love where I am. So now I'd love to talk a little bit about what about where you are makes you as happy as you are? I mean, we've spoken about the leadership and the support you've had.
Yeah.
We've spoken about your team. What else makes Road to Responsibility such a wonderful fit for you?
I just love the days where I can truly be invested in the mission, and I love that my job is to tell the stories of that mission. You know, a video shoot day or something where we're building the story for the gala, and I get to really interview with our members and meet their family and hear firsthand about how our mission is impacting them. You know, because I think it gives you the opportunity to see, okay, this to-do list that I had to do today, like exactly what I said earlier about bringing it back to the mission. Those are like the fun days at work where I'm really just getting to see the stories, learn the stories, and tell them to everybody else. And that really just makes the job what I love about it. RTR is a special place, as many other, similar organizations in this room will share with me, I think. Our members are the happiest people. You know, there's never a day where I go into our programs and I'm not happy leaving. They're always smiling, they're happy to see you, they want to ask questions about you and learn about your life. And, when I was pregnant the second time around too, going into those programs with a big baby belly is also just like the cutest thing ever. They're so respectful. None of them would have ever touched my belly without asking permission. It's just so nice to be around them and to be able to learn about them and their journeys there and hear from their families about the impact that we're having and knowing that I played a part in that too.
And so in case anybody doesn't know specifically what Road to Responsibility does, can you tell us a little bit more about the work?
Absolutely. So we are a nonprofit human service agency. We serve adults 22 and above with intellectual and developmental disabilities, including autism and acquired brain injuries. So as people age out, at 22 they transition over to adult services, RTR being one of them, similar to Cushing or the ARC as well. And so we offer residential group homes, co-op living apartments, day rehabilitation programs, community-based day support, and job placement services. So we work with members. The end goal is always employment for them, whether that's an individual job in the community. We also have group employment where our staff go with them to a local business, knowing that maybe that's the learning curve to getting them to competitive employment, or that's just where they're always going to be, and that's fine, but giving them that purpose of having a job. Whenever you meet somebody, you say, "Hi, I'm Erin, what do you do?" Like, that's just a conversation starter, and so that's a really big thing for us at RTR is to make sure that they have an answer to that. And that could be volunteer work, too. We're volunteering at the Red Cross right now, Ware River Farm in Pinkham, Proprietors Green in Marshfield, and they'll say, "I work at the farm," and they're so proud of that. It's a volunteer gig, but it's their favorite thing to do, and it gives them purpose.
So 2 questions to come off of that. One, you're sitting in a room full of women leaders. Mm-hmm. So what value do you think the adults you serve can offer organizations in terms of value to you guys if you mm-hmm. had an opening and could consider one of your people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's also a big part of our mission is just educating the community to know that the people that we serve have something to offer. I think as a nonprofit, people always think that we need help, which we do, but we don't have a lot of volunteer groups come to us. Instead, we actually prefer to volunteer. We pack meals, we go out, we do gardening, we do Meals on Wheels. So we try to just showcase to the community that we would rather, give a handout and help other organizations in the community. So also just giving them the opportunity to learn and find out what's out there in the world of employment, to any businesses that could maybe just invite them in for a couple hours to shadow, or what's an office like, how do you clock in and clock out. Just learning all of those day-to-day things as an employer is very important to them.
Yeah, we have a couple adults with disabilities at the warehouse, and they affect the mood of the entire team. Mm-hmm. They brighten the room. Everyone's always so happy when they leave. It's really a joyful experience.
They're some of the best employees that you'll ever have. I mean, talk about anybody more loyal. They will show up, they will be on time, and they will do it with a smile.
what kinds of opportunities do you look for?
I mean, it truly runs the gamut based on somebody's level of abilities. I mean, we have people working in law firms, finance firms, they're scanning, filing, faxing. I mean, it could truly be anything. But a lot of those repetitive tasks, like a warehouse or like the scanning and filing, they enjoy that. For somebody with autism, that's like the gold star, you know, to have a task where it can just be repetitive, it's routine, and they're great at that. And that's, quite frankly, a lot of the stuff that most people don't want to do. So it's kind of a perfect fit in an office environment.
Great. Well, that's all we have. Right? Do you have anything else you want to add?
No. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Erin? I know we always ask, what can we do for you?
Erin, what do you like to do in your spare time?
I have 2 little kids, so I don't know what kind of spare time. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. We live in Hull, though, so we go to the beach a lot. Winter, summer, all of it. I have a Peloton. That's my mental health break. Those are my hobbies, really. I mean, I'm at baseball 3 nights a week. I hope that at some point I'll come back to being myself, but I think that any mothers in the room may understand that.
You will.
Okay. I have.
Erin, you talk about being organized, get through your list. Is it a paper notebook you use, or do you have some tools that you can share?
My Google Calendar is my best friend. Very color-coded with personal things, work things. Am I in the office, out of the office? Reminders on my iPhone. Nothing groundbreaking, but, you know, that's just how I keep things structured.
And Elena?
2 questions. Are those peonies real?
Yes.
Jill started.
Very
Jill. Yeah, stop on by.
$15 a stick.
Yeah, she's
You discussed and represented your style of relentless leadership, which is phenomenal. What kind of leader do you look up to that inspires you? I know you mentioned Chris and his support and his empathetic behavior towards your situation, but outside of that, in a corporate structure, what do you want to have modeled for you, and what has the greatest impact on you?
What a great question.
Yeah. I mean, Chris is amazing. You know, he's everything I could want in a supervisor. But I had a supervisor when I was at the American Cancer Society that I truly looked up to. You know, she was just kind of like the next stage ahead of me. I was just getting married. She was just having kids. And that was really helpful for me to see how you can be a working mom and how you can be invested in your job, but also your home life. So I think that it's always helpful for me to have a supervisor that I can really see myself in. That just allows me to kind of see what the future holds for me and learn from them as well. So she was really the most impactful for me, and that's kind of, obviously, you know, I'm not seeing myself in Chris, although I certainly value him, but I think that that was so helpful for me to kind of envision what it can be like as a working mom.
Can you encapsulate those specific qualities that really speak to you?
That's hard.
I like the hard ones.
Yes, I know. But I was prepared, and now you're going off the script.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Well, while she thinks, I will say that this is such a great question, because your response really shows how critical diversity in leadership is. If you don't see yourself in your leaders, it's not as aspirational a work environment.
Yeah.
And so creating opportunities and having a diverse leadership team, I think, is super important. You want your team to be relatable to all of your employees, and have everyone look up to and feel like they have somebody that they can approach or model behavior off of.
Yeah, it was really helpful for me just to sort of have a friend in her, but also know that she was my supervisor, and to be able to like see that future path and think, okay, well, if she gets a promotion, like I want to be her in a couple of years, you know, and here's how I'm going to do it. And she was also the one that pushed me when I was leaving to apply for jobs. I mean, I was sitting in her office, we were combing through Indeed. I was like, no, and she was like, you can do it, just apply for it. Like, what's the harm? So I think really just having that open and honest communication with her. I mean, it's not often that you're sitting with your supervisor looking for a new job for yourself. But she just believed in me and she pushed me to do it. And that was so helpful for me just to have that relationship with her where I could learn from her, but also know that she was pushing me to take other opportunities that she knew I was worthy of.
Thank you. These aren't meant to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
These are more as a leader. What are the takeaways, right? There are a lot of leaders in this room.
Yeah.
We all learn from each other.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, and absolutely. I mean, I try to think back to that experience that I had with her to now being a supervisor to someone. You know, I hope that she can see that in me the same way that I did in that woman as well.
So I think two critical themes, though, come from both people, both Chris and, what was this lady's name?
Kelsey.
And that is support and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So support and faith and belief in you, and giving you the freedom to reach.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other qualities that Kelsey had that you've ever modeled in your career? Was she, you know, how did she approach work-life balance? Do you think that's affected you?
Absolutely, because I think that she was good at admitting that she couldn't do it all. And, you know, she'd come into work late and she'd talk about things that happened with her kids. And she was also open and honest with it. Like, she wasn't one of those supervisors that kind of put on a show and pretended that, like, she had it all together. Because I think that sometimes is a little intimidating, especially if that's what you want to strive for. And then you're thinking, how is she doing this? You know, like, I'm never going to be able to do that. So I think it was helpful for me to truly just kind of be able to see inside the curtain of her life, too, and understand what was going on behind the scenes, but then see how professional she was and how she portrayed herself at work, too.
Great. Any other questions?
I do. Oh, you, Julie, go.
I have a comment and a question. Yeah, listening to you and watching you, I can't help but keep going back to your parents must be so proud of you.
Thank you.
I adore her mother. But what I mean is you're so kind and empathetic and generous. And those are things that are usually taught at home. So
Thank you.
that's a key thing. But my question is, as the director of philanthropy, I'm thinking, how do you ask for money in an elegant, appropriate way? I mean, grants obviously, but are there other ways?
Yeah.
Do you find funding?
I mean, sometimes I think I'm really bad at my job because I'm actually not like a blunt fundraiser. That terrifies me, which I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm in the right career path. But I think that it's all about just building the relationship and being human with someone where, you know, I'm not just like, hey, how are you? You got $10,000? You know, it's more building the relationship and bringing them in to see your mission where they're almost offering the money. I'm just not one of those, like, blunt, salesy fundraisers. That's just not how I operate. And, you know, for a while I thought that was going to hold me back. But I think just being human and being who I am and building relationships with people, and, you know, some of those corporate dollars are very blunt and transactional, and those are probably the ones I'm not going to get, and that's okay because I'll get other ones. So I think just being okay with kind of embracing the way that I operate and not become somebody that I'm comfortable with, you know.
It's such an inspiring level of confidence, ladies, don't you think?
Yeah.
Just being okay with your approach and knowing that it isn't going to fit everybody, but it's going to be marvelous enough for you to excel at what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Poise and grace is Miss Erin. My fundraising style is awkward. People write a check and give it to me to say, please just stop. It's enough.
It's an awkward conversation. Even my own mom will be like, so, you know, how much money do you want? Where's your, and I'm like, okay. But I think it's important to also find an organization that you're proud of. Like, when I was in the job I wasn't happy in, and I always, as I was interviewing, would ask myself, would I accept my mom's money? That's kind of how I set my, because I've been at other organizations where I'm like, Mom, don't write the check. And how am I supposed to fundraise for an organization when I tell my own mom not to give me money? So, wow.
This is a little selfish, but on the chamber side, so you mentioned the NPO group.
Yeah.
And some people here might not know what that is.
Mhm.
Would you like to talk about it a little bit?
Sure,
And,
absolutely.
your role in it and last year, this year.
Yes, so I was the vice chair for 2 years and the chair last year. And before that, I think I had been part of it for maybe 3 or 4 years as just a member of the steering committee. The NPO group is all of the nonprofits that are members of the chamber are part of this NPO group for free. It's just an added benefit to your membership. And it's educational, it's therapy, it's all of the things bringing together nonprofit professionals. We do, just sort of general networking, bagels and best practices, but we also bring in expertises to talk about certain things. We poll the group to see what's going on. Are we struggling with events? Are we struggling with grants? Where do we need, board development, all of those things. And then we find a way to create an event for that to benefit nonprofits. But they're my people. That's kind of just where I have found my home, and a lot of us are kind of by ourselves and, navigating nonprofit challenges. And so like I talked about, just being able to lean on other people. It's so weird. I feel like we talk about all the time, like, okay, we're competitors, but that's like a weird phrase for us in the nonprofit world, I think. And it truly doesn't feel like that.
No,
I mean,
very collaborative.
We collaborate and we work together, and, I joke that sometimes it's a therapy session, but it's very therapeutic just to be like, oh, you're having the same problems I'm having? Okay, I'm not alone, and then let's figure out how we can fix those things and work together.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now you know about it.
So join us.
What advice would you give the next group of upcoming Erin? What would you tell them?
See, that's hard because for so long when I was unhappy in my job, as you know, I would sit in the room and think like, oh, that's great, good for you. I was like so negative about it. Like, oh, you have a flexible schedule, wonderful. I'm never going to have that. And you just have to leave and find the place. It's not always going to be the right fit. And I always struggled with that, sitting in conferences, hearing from women leaders about how they always got their kids off the bus or they always did this. And it's like, well, that's not the case everywhere. But if that's what you want, then go find it and find the right fit for yourself where you're going to be your best self.
So actually, as I sat down, I noticed the tattoo on your foot there that says fearless.
Yeah.
And I think that is what you're saying. It's like, be fearless.
Well, that was my 18-year-old self. Fearless is not being fearless, but just going for it anyways, even if you're terrified.
Doesn't mean you're not afraid.
Yeah. Yep.
Do it anyway.
Yep. Exactly.
That's how we grow. Anybody else got any questions? Back.
I can't see Erin.
Hello.
It's more of an observation that I noticed as you were talking and you were answering this question over there about fail and getting money, right? And the human services part of it and the connection and the creating a relationship. And I think all of us as women, entrepreneurs, leaders, or whatever, that holds like a heavy weight. Like, if you're making a relationship with somebody, it makes it so much easier for the energy or the money to change hands. And I think we can all learn from that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. My husband is in sales, but I tell him that I do sales with a soul. So, because that's what it is, right? In a way, you're selling your mission and you're selling your organization, but you have to do it with heart and be human.
Anybody else? This was fantastic.
Thank you.
She's always nervous. Everyone's always nervous.
Well, I moderated Pam, who is an amazing, fascinating person who came from a different country. You have an amazing story, and then I'm like, now she has to talk to me?
You pulled it off.
It was a huge pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
giving
for
me
the opportunity.
Speaking of opportunities, like, I will be putting together the list. So if you have a potential speaker or moderator you think might be good for next year, send me an email. It's hmccall@socialchamber.org. It's about 8 slots. 8 so lucky. So we take that into consideration when we look through everybody's bios and do our research and try and find the right fit for our speakers for this series. But I love contributions. I love to hear. We might not know everybody, so we want to hear who you might want to hear from too. So just to thank our sponsors again, our lead sponsor, Mountain One Bank, Cardinal Cushing Center, Crystal Moon Holistic Healing, Friendship Home, George Washington Toma TV and Appliance, Phifer Pinkham LLC, SteinbergHR, Tiny and Sons Auto Glass, Unique Stairways, and the Wellspring Group, and Social YMCA. And our next one is September. It's a networking event at Players. Jackie Berardi has been a former speaker of Will. She redid the entire space into this really cool event space. So that is open to everybody, but it is sponsored by Will, and we'll have our past speakers, past sponsors, and attendees and everything. So it's going to be great. So I really, registration's online. And then the two after that will be Dr. Maria B. Dr. B. So I am not, like, it's Francesco.
Camino.
Francesco. Yes,
She's the best.
Yeah, she's great. And, but we call her Dr. B. She's very nice. Like, you can just call me Dr. B. Thank you. And our current chair, Bonnie Simmons, will be our final speaker. So everything is online to be registered for, and that's it.
Great. I have one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, in appreciation of all of you joining us today, we have a 50% discount code for Food Fight for as many tickets as you want, and the discount code is Woman Rock.
I can send it to everybody too at the end, which is a few reminders from today and the recording from today.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.